welcome to Go Tell Mom. I'm Dianna Kelly, and I've been momming for several decades, including tending my fur babies, kids I gave birth to, kids I mentored as a broadcaster and college instructor, my kids' friends, and my friends. I'm not a psychologist or doctor, but I do know how to dig up advice from those who are, and that's what I'll share with you. If you have something to share with me, remark, comment, question, please comment below. My daughter and her fiance plan to marry next spring, and they plan to keep it small and personal. That's the plan anyway. Who knows what the months will bring in terms of trends. Martha Stewart says celebrations this year are all about intimate, relaxed gatherings, which kind of fits what my daughter has in mind. Martha also leans toward the seated, relaxed bridal party, and even oysters served in a canoe. Well, it's Martha, what can you say? She's also telling us to expect the bride to change, and more than once, during the wedding bash. Yep, I changed during mine, only it was back at my parents' house after the reception because my parents' tradition was to bring everybody back to the house to relax. Turns out we were trendsetters. That's supposedly one of the trends for this year. The Knot.com says candid cameras are also a new trend. The bridal couples are asking their guests to moonlight as paparazzi, arming them with disposable cameras. Actually, I remember some of my friends doing that, having disposable cameras at the table to take post-wedding photos. The Knot also says some couples are hiring sketch artists to blend into the crowd and surprise guests with portraits of themselves. One of the best memories I had of my wedding is when all of our friends from work, who had become my friends RIL, and my new husband and I took a group shot together, with everybody laughing. A friend of ours had suggested we sit back during the reception and just watch the crowd for a moment, and realized it was our party. Someone took a picture of it, and that was my favorite wedding photo. A few years ago, one of our interns was getting married, and she was telling us all about the stress she was having over wedding details. The church, the backyard reception, the food, the photographer. We've heard that some folks do a big backyard potluck with everybody bringing their favorite family dish, with a recipe card on how to make it. My friends did this for my bridal shower, and I just loved it. Julianne's nuptials planning gave me a flashback to my own wedding and all the coordinating. My future spouse's big contribution was making reservations for our honeymoon, getting his tux, and helping me choose a band. We've had friends who have opted for going with school musicians to save money, and they were pretty happy with the results. I was in charge of my dress, my bridesmaids' dresses, picking the reception hall and menu, choosing invitations, napkins, favors, flowers, and planning all the seating. My mom handled execution of my choices and lined up the limo, the church, and the photographer. Of course, these days you might want to line up a videographer as well. She also found a new hotel in the area that would give a break to our guests. Mom was really the general in planning the details, since my fiance and I lived out of state and our wedding was to be in my hometown. Dad wrote the check, and had to live with my mother's stress while she was executing. No small surprise that Dad offered my fiancé money if we just elope. My fiancé did have to worry about the rehearsal dinner for about the 10 minutes it took for him to pick up the phone and call the restaurant my mother recommended. But what about the rehearsal itself? The trend during my 20s was the bride-to-be carried a bouquet made from ribbons from the bridal shower gifts. Hey, it's easier than figuring out the actual bouquet and what it's supposed to match. As for today's rehearsal dinners, the trend is to use a theme according to the Knot. Maybe a murder mystery dinner or a bowling alley buffet. And what about the wedding party? What's the style for them? According to Reddit, we're looking at mismatched and floral dresses and pearls everywhere. My daughter's already talking about picking out dresses, and she doesn't mean just hers or her bridesmaids. She's talking about picking out my dress as mother of the bride. I thought once I got out of my 20s, I was off the hook when it came to someone telling me how to dress for an occasion. Did I mention our fashion senses run in totally opposite directions, except when it comes to flowers, and my girl will let me help her plan those. She goes for daisies, and I love that about her. Simple, kicky, friendly, stress-free. It makes me think about some of the Gen Zers having it right when they said that they're letting AI handle all the details because it would be less expensive to plan the wedding that way and less stressful than dealing with a wedding planner. The most important part of all of this planning is to remember it's the bridal couple's day. Much as friends and family enjoy the celebration, the ones who will remember it the most are the bride and groom. It's just a party, people. It should be happy. The best compliment my now ex-spouse and I got from almost everyone was it was the most fun reception they'd ever attended when they went to our wedding. So now I'm sharing notes with my friend and colleague, Sheri Waltz. Did they play the da 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 theme at your wedding?
Is that the wedding song?
I think so.
Okay.
Well, I'm attempting the wedding song.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a music person.
I never thought of it really as terribly musical myself. But, I mean, they didn't do that at mine either. We got married in a traditional Catholic church, so everything was like traditional wedding mass stuff, so it wasn't anything like what, the bouncy stuff that you see at weddings these days or hear at weddings these days. It was very, very formal and all that.
Yes.
Was yours?
I was Catholic growing up, but my husband was not. So we got married in a Presbyterian church, which was a good middle ground for us. But it was a church wedding.
Yeah, yeah. Was the planning of the wedding stressful? I mean, let's face it, you set up a church service and you kind of hand it over to whoever the pastor is. Although you do have to pay your musician or whoever it is that's playing the organ or the accordion or whatever it is. But I mean, the church part, aside from setting up flowers, I keep thinking of other things that you have to do at weddings. But aside from that part of the wedding's the kind of easy part. It's the going to the reception part that tends to be complicated. Did you find that difficult for planning? I mean, because in my house, it was my mom who was the general when it came to this, because she was good at crafts, she was good at sewing, she had a great eye for color, so she was able to take what I would suggest and transform it. How about you?
We really did most of it ourselves. So I would say I was the general at the wedding, and I was
in charge. And you are a crafty person.
Yes, and so I did, we made my own wedding invitations, we did our own favors, we made a lot of the stuff that I wanted to make for the reception. Mm-hmm. The wedding itself, I would agree, it was very cut and dry. I think it was just the flowers were the only thing that we added to that, because it was a church wedding and the organist came with the church and the pastor comes with the church, and that was it. But all the stuff, I guess, was really around the reception that we had to plan. And we lucked out that we picked a place that had everything there. So you picked what food you want, but they catered it. We did the tasting, we tasted the wedding cakes and all that, but the wedding cake was from them. The food was from them. The DJ was from them. Everything was. It was a package. It was all a package deal. So we didn't have a lot of those decisions to make, which I don't know, was really nice. I don't remember my wedding being stressful. It was a while ago.
Yeah, mine too. I've had a divorce since then, so that's a little different. But in any case, when my daughter told me that she and her fiancé were getting married, they decided that they were going to do a destination wedding, which they weren't going to have a big wedding. It was just going to be immediate family or pretty with one or two extra people. But they wanted to do a beach wedding where they'd get married on the beach. Aww. And of course, this is Tennessee, so there is no beach in Tennessee. There may be shoreline.
I was going to say, I think Old Hickory might have something.
Yeah, but for the most part, that's not, you'd be tripping on rocks there. So. and I say that in the most admirable way, because I love the rocks and the water and all that together, but I wouldn't want to walk barefoot in them for a wedding. But they want to do something down at the beach. So they lined up a Verbo where they'd booked rooms, and my future son-in-law had a certain amount of money that he had set aside, and I was going to contribute. So I was contributing and I had a chat with them. They're like, well, everything's pretty much covered. We've got it all covered there, and we're just going to have a restaurant where we're going to do the dinner.
Rehearsal.
And the rehearsal. No, they're doing everything. They want to do everything at a restaurant.
Oh.
And as opposed to paying for a caterer and all that, they figured it would be more cost effective to do it that way. And folks would pretty much get what they wanted for dinner.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a plan to me. But then everything kind of fell through with the Verbo, so now they're kind of back to square one. But I'm pretty sure that's the route they're going to go again with this.
And that might be the way it is now, because my daughter did the same type of thing. Her husband's family is from Knoxville and Alabama. Mm-hmm. We're in Middle Tennessee, but then all of my family, my brothers and sisters, they live in California, they live in Washington. So
they're scattered.
So they're all scattered. And so they decided, they got married in Chattanooga. No one lives in Chattanooga. We're not from Chattanooga, but that's where they found a place. And it was kind of everybody's driving in anyway.
Yeah.
What does it matter? If we do it in Nashville, then half the people are driving in.
Exactly.
If we, or some people will be flying in. If we do it in Alabama, then people, so they just decided to do that. But theirs, although I know Lily found a lot of places that were kind of like all inclusive and had all of that done for them, the price points were just outrageous for the amount of money that wedding venues wanted if they provided you the food and the DJ and the flowers and all of that. So she ended up finding a place that did offer that. They did offer that they would, but you could also just rent the venue, and that's what she did. And then she catered in from Taziki's. It's Mediterranean, like fast food chain, you know, it's kind of like a Chipotle, but of Mediterranean food.
Yeah.
And it was actually really good. It worked out perfect.
Yeah.
But I think, well, I don't know. I think the cost is a big thing nowadays.
Yeah, because when my parents paid for our wedding, although my dad did offer my now ex-husband $10,000 to elope, because my mother was one of these people that she'd get the bit in her teeth. And he also knew that she'd be very stressed, but she liked that kind of stress.
Right.
You know, that was something I think she enjoyed. Was she liked to have a project, and let's face it, a wedding's a big project.
It is.
But now you can't do everything at one venue and be cost effective about it. You know, as you mentioned, it's just the costs are outrageous. This particular venue, both my brother and my sister had been lifeguards there. It was a country club. Half of my parents' friends went there, so it kind of made sense to do it there. And actually the woman that arranged everything was a friend of mine who we were in cheerleading together. So it was kind of funny that, 10 years later, here we are. But back then it was not as expensive as it is now.
And I think what I found was very interesting is how things have changed. Mm-hmm. So like when we got married, it was very important to my husband's family that they invited all their church friends, which is one of the reasons why we got married in their church.
Right.
And that was very important to them. But when my daughter got married, we had many conversations about stuff, but she was very adamant that not that she didn't want to invite my friends, but that this is her wedding, and she doesn't. That's not really what she wants, and so we didn't. So we only had one of my friends came, and actually she came because she helped because this was like an a la carte place. Yeah. She didn't have a day of coordinator, and my good friend has done that several times before. That's not her job, so but she's done it. But she came down to be the day of coordinator and helped set up the food and paid the vendors while we were there. And it was great. It was a great help. Yeah. But she was the only friend of mine that was there. It was very much Lily's friends and family, and that was it. And just a very smaller. I think she ended up with about maybe 50 people at the wedding. Mine was about 150 people at the wedding. And
mine was like 95.
Yeah, it was just different. Yeah. So it's just kind of changing a little bit, like what it looks like.
Now I think Janina and Bradley's, it's going to be, they're talking like 35 people maybe, which if you're buying dinner for 35 people at a restaurant, I mean, it's not cheap, but it's not like when you're paying like $50 a plate.
Right.
And I think that's the way they looked at it. Bring a cake, and we'll be done. And everybody will dance on the beach. And I think that kind of sounds like a really cool compromise to do something like that, but it's different than what we grew up with.
Yes, and definitely different than our parents and what they grew up with. I know that I talked to my kids from the time that they were born about eloping, and I don't know, they didn't work. It didn't work out because I always told them, like, here's a set amount of money, you do with that whatever you want. This is your money. Like, this is you leaving the nest money.
Yes.
So you leave the nest and you can do whatever you want with it. And I said always, and I think the smartest thing for you to do is to elope and use it for a house. I have talked about that from the very beginning of time.
Yes.
But Lily really wanted the wedding, and so that's what she did. And so you know what? That's her choice. And then my other daughter, I don't know. She has a long-term significant other, but I could see them never getting married. Like, honestly, I could see them just always being together. And she really wants a house. And of course, right now with interest rates and other things happening, now is not the time.
No.
But soon will be the time for her. And I wonder if she'll take me up on a different offer. Yeah. Right? Because, like I said, the same thing is just there's a pile of money. I say pile. It's coins, pile of money, but she can make a different choice with that money. Yeah. And it's interesting to see how, although they were raised in the same house and we talked about the same things,
they've got different approaches toward life. Yeah.
Yeah. I know for me, when we got married, my husband and I really wanted I wouldn't say elope, but I really wanted to get married like at the courthouse or something. Like I had no intention of spending money on it. But my sister was very adamant that I would regret not having a wedding. And I was young. I was 24 when I got married.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to regret that. I mean, I didn't want to go into a marriage with a regret.
Right.
And so we did have a wedding. And then, of course, once you start, it kind of snowballs.
Yeah.
It becomes this big thing.
Yeah.
So we had a wedding, a big wedding. And I do love it. I'm glad that we did it. And looking back on it, though, I don't know if I would have regretted it. I do think that there are probably people that would have regretted not having a wedding. It's just never been a big core piece of who I am.
Right.
You just don't. I think I would have liked what your daughter and new to be son-in-law are doing, which is just a very small wedding at a beach. I love the beach. I think that would have been.
They're planning like a weekend thing, so that we hang out and go play in the sand or whatever, and there's a wedding, you know, because his sister is an ordained minister, so it works out being pretty cost effective with what they're doing, and I'm giving them a certain amount toward it.
I think it's important. I think it's good for the new couple to think about what they value, what they want to do with it. I do think it's it's hard to manage between the money piece of it, the financial piece, the business piece of the wedding, and your hopes and dreams. I think sometimes maybe more so for females than men, but about what that looks like. I'm always amazed at the new wedding trends and like what's popular and what people are doing and all of that.
And then I go take a look at some of the price tags for all of that, and I'm like,
yes.
Now, see, I had an intern, about 15 years ago that was getting married. Big hoopla and all that. She decided to do an outdoor barbecue thing. And, it was, you still had place settings and catering and all that, but the venue was
their backyard type of thing.
A backyard wedding, which I still think is popular these days.
It did. It was popular for a little while, and I tried to convince Lily about that, but it was like, no. So
I understand that.
Kids, they all want to do their own thing.
Yeah.
I was very proud of myself. I tried really hard not to become, not bridezilla, what is it? Mother-in-law Zilla, I don't know, mother of the bridezilla. And I really just let Lily make her call about what she wanted to do and what was happening. And and she did. She decided. They made a lot of decisions that wouldn't be my decisions, but it's not my wedding.
Okay, so live music or just have somebody spin records, or in the case of my daughter, they're talking about bringing a boombox out there and just letting it rip.
I have been to both weddings where they have done live music, like I've done some where they've had like harpists and different things and I just think they're very beautiful. But I don't know, like honestly, the weddings that, like my wedding, my daughter's wedding, we all just did a DJ. And now, like I remember like when at my wedding, when the DJ set up, it was like this big thing. They had all these speakers and all this stuff. Now they brought a phone with a playlist, and that was it. And I was like, "What? We're paying this guy for his phone?" And I was like, "Well, but he did a few more things, but but still, I was just like, I remember a big setup when they came, and he's like, "No, I just need a corner. I just need," and I was like, "Okay."
Yeah, if it works, it works. And the bottom line is, what are you going to remember from the wedding afterwards?
My daughter, for hers, they did just a small cake. They didn't do a big cake. They just did what they call sweetheart's cake. So just basically for them and the bridesmaid, like the table of the bridesmaids and whatever, the groomsmen for them. And then everybody else, she had cookies and brownies and other things.
Really?
And that was it. She didn't do a cake because she was like, cake prices my daughter is very stingy. So she was like, I'm not paying for a cake. We originally were going to do a sheet cake from Publix, but then she was like, I think it'll just be so hard like to have someone up there cutting the cake and plating it, because we did the a la carte at this place. There was nobody to do all of that. And so she just said, we're just going to do cookies. And I said, you know what? You do you. Do whatever you want.
Exactly.
And a few of the older people that were there, like grandparents, they were like a little like, we want cake. And it worked out just fine because there was enough little pieces of cake so that the older people got cake and all the young people were like, give me a chocolate chip.
Yeah.
They didn't care.
I love double chocolate brownies.
They did not care that it was cookies and brownies and I don't know, some other type of bars. I don't know what she got.
Yeah.
But again,
that's the way they decided to do it.
Yeah.
So why not? Yeah. I will say there was one thing my mother insisted on, because my ex-husband has 3 brothers. And she's like, there will be no pushing the cake in the face, because that, where did that tradition
I don't know.
start?
We did it at our wedding.
Oh.
But my kids didn't do it. Lily didn't do it at hers.
But my mother was like, no, we're not doing that. That's not happening, which I think was a disappointment to my ex-brothers-in-law. But
They also didn't do like a first dance. They did do the father of the bride and the bride dance, and then the mother and Noah. They did that, but they did it at the same time, so they didn't do separate dances.
Yeah.
So they all just danced together, but there wasn't a first dance. And of course, my kid is from UT, so they did the UT, I guess, the fight song, whatever song is, Rocky Top,
right.
And so it was all the kids out there singing Rocky Top. It was really cute. It was a really fun.
Yeah.
It was a fun wedding.
now, videographer or no?
They did not. They had a photographer. They did 2 photographers. That was the one thing that Lily, out of all the things Lily spent money on, she spent the most on photographer,
Right.
because that's important to her.
Yeah.
If she had asked my opinion, I would have said, don't even bother with the photographer.
Yeah.
Just get pictures that random people take
Yeah.
of you. I would have been fine with that, but that's me. I'm not a big picture person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do pictures, but that was important to Lily. Like, she also paid for engagement pictures on the beach. They went to Florida, and she found a photographer there, and they did engagement pictures on the beach because that was important to her.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I think it's nice that people can pick what's important to them.
Yeah. And in this day and age, I think brides and grooms are more vocal about what their preferences are, whereas I think pre our generation, you had no say in it. It was clearly, the parents were deciding how this was going to be done and all this, and all you'd have to do is like nod and say, and be on with it. Now, I do remember one thing. My parents wanted us to have a live band.
Oh.
Yeah. So we thought this great band. My dad also wanted us to have open bar. And the band partook of the open bar. Oh, man. So this great song that was on their demo had to be sung by the drummer instead of the lead singer because she was too drunk to sing it. My friends all said it was the most fun wedding they'd been to, and I'm sure the open bar had a lot to do with that.
Probably. We were not going to do an open bar at our wedding, and then and I spent every penny that I had, all the money that everybody contributed, and then at the last minute, when my husband's in-laws, or his parents, found out that we were not doing an open bar, they were like, well, we want to, and I just said, well, then you guys have to pay for it. Like, I've already allocated the money, and we're not spending that.
Yeah.
And they did, and it was actually a good thing. Mm-hmm. And I was glad that they did it. And then at my daughter's wedding, one of the reasons why she picked that venue was you were allowed to, we had to pay extra for a bartender that was licensed to but to disperse alcohol.
Right.
So they had to have a bartender on site, but we went to I don't know, some wine warehouse. I don't know. We bought box wines.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of beer and a few other things, and it was great. And it worked out. It worked out fantastic, and it wasn't expensive.
Yeah.
I did really appreciate that.
Yeah. See, I think part of the reason with this destination wedding and doing everything in one spot was that nobody would be driving afterwards.
Yes.
And you have to worry about that sometimes.
You do.
Yeah.
You really do.
Yeah, but that would be no problem when it happens next year.
Yay! Well, I can't wait to hear more about it.
Yeah, and we're supposed to go dress shopping. Her main bridesmaid is from, I think she lives in Iowa still, but she's coming down for the wedding. But she's also going to come down first to meet Bradley and give her stamp of approval, but also to try on dresses and all that other thing. So, I think we're going to, at some point this summer, be out dress shopping. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
I hope it's okay.
I think it'll be okay. I really do. But I told her I'll buy your gown since they're doing all this and they're pretty much paying for the rest of it. She's like, I don't think there's much more. And then Bradley chimed in flowers. And I'm like, I can handle the flowers. So, yeah. And anything else that pops up along the way, tell me, because I had in my head a certain figure that I'm going to pay for their wedding, and I don't think her dress is going to cost all of that.
Ivy, or Lily, being the ever practical daughter that she is, she bought hers used online. So we went dress shopping. She found a designer, I guess, that she liked, and then she went online till she found the dress. Then she got the dress. She needed to have it altered. She went to a place that did not do a good job altering it, so she was really upset. So we found another place, and they fixed it, and it was fine, and it was beautiful, and it was great.
Now, see, for my wedding, my mother had always wanted to do this. She took me to Filene's Bargain Basement on the run of the dresses day.
Oh.
Because they would cart in all of these dresses from all over the country, from, closeouts and all that. I wound up with a Neiman Marcus dress for $99.
I did Gunny Sack. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes.
They did the same thing, and I didn't spend it. My sister actually bought it for me. She bought my dress. It was $300. It was the most expensive thing I ever bought in my life at that time.
Yes.
Now I've bought more expensive things, but at the time I had never spent that much money on anything.
It's
and
a
it
wedding
was
dress.
It was so expensive, but I appreciate that she bought it. That was really nice
really
of her.
sweet, yeah.
But Lily's wasn't that expensive. I think she spent $1,000 on the dress, and then I think we ended up spending around $200 or $300 because we
on
had
the
the alterations because we had to do it twice.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit more than she had anticipated.
Yeah.
And I know the dress was a little bit more than she anticipated. She wanted to spend somewhere around $500, but she found, like I said, she found a designer that she liked. But instead of going with the new designs that were out that year, she went with like 2 years back, and it was similar enough, and she was able to find it. I was really nervous because she bought it. It was from someplace in California that she found, like maybe on Craigslist. I don't know where she found it, but I was like,
Yeah.
But it came, and it came quickly, and then she just,
Yeah, my daughter's getting married in April of next year. She's not sure when to go dress shopping. I mean, she and her fiance do a lot of workouts and that kind of thing, but I think she's thinking, I want to trim off a few pounds before then, So she's not sure if she's going to be doing it this summer, dress shopping this summer, or dress shopping like in January, which
I think it's better to go early because I think, I don't know. I guess it depends. Like Lily she needs a lot of time to think about things. I think we went once with her, the mother-in-law, myself, and Lily, and actually my mother-in-law. So her grandmother went with us. We all went, made a day of it. It was very nice. But she probably went dress shopping 5 or 6 times. But Lily takes a long time to make a decision, and she needs to think about a lot of stuff. And she went many, many times, and I was glad she started early.
Yeah. I think I'm probably going to go through that with Janina. I'm almost pretty sure. Although having Moira there will make it, her maid of honor will make it a little bit more. I think she'll be more likely to make a decision because she knows that Moira's only going to be there for like a few days.
Right.
So I used to, when we go clothes shopping, she would take forever. Oh my Lord. I got to the point where I just go 10, 9, 8, 7, keeping it or not, 6, 5, 4, make a decision now or we're walking away now. And yeah. I mean, just because she would think, well, maybe not this, maybe I don't know. Do I want it ruffled? Do I want, that kind of, although she's not a ruffle girl.
And it was interesting this time for the wedding because my husband didn't really care. I mean, I don't remember him ever saying anything that he wanted. The only thing he wanted a horse-drawn carriage from the chapel, from the wedding venue to the reception. And they were just down the street, and that he got that. He really wanted that. It was very beautiful, and it was very romantic.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that he ever cared about.
Yeah.
But then when my daughter got married, her fiance, husband now, had lots of comments like, that's not the right color purple. This is not the right color linen. Like, and I was like, well, okay.
Guys
so it was definitely interesting to have guys more interested in
more
it.
dialed in than they used to be.
Which I think is great because it shouldn't be all up to the bride. It's not her day. It's their day. It's together. It's their start of their wedding or their future. And I, would talk about that all the time with her. Like, it's okay. And you have to be happy with what you're doing because I always just say, but this is just one day.
Right.
Of many.
Right.
So if something goes wrong, it's just one day. It's one event. You can have another one, not another wedding, hopefully.
No.
But you can have another day with another event,
Yeah.
another way to celebrate your love. I'm
Right.
like, so it's okay if something goes wrong.
You'll have an anniversary someday that'll be one of those landmark anniversaries, and then you can.
Yeah.
The best advice we got for our wedding was at the end of the day, just sit back and enjoy your party and just watch everybody having fun, because that's what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably the best advice I got when it came to our wedding.
That's really good advice.
Yeah. I'm Dianna Kelly. She's Sheri Waltz. This is Go Tell Moms. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing this episode of Go Tell Mom with us, Dianna Kelly and Sheri Waltz. We focus on the kind of things you might share with your mom, or tell about your mom, or maybe not. If you have something you'd like to share or comment on, please click on our comment section. See you next time with Go Tell Mom.